let's get into this one. We got JDR versus Ken. This is going to be Hyde versus Wagner. And so this one is, in my opinion, pretty good for Hyde. It's okay. It's about 5-5. But the problem is that Wagner can definitely give Hyde some hell once she gets in. And he has to sort of take a bit of a risk once you do that. Whether it's a DP or trying to stuff out some reverse beats with 2A. Right, let's get into this one. So early on, if I'm the Hyde player, what I'm thinking is I'm trying my best to keep this Wagner player out, right? I want this Wagner player to take a lot of damage, and I'm waiting for the knockdown. And then once I get the knockdown, then I'm going to be able to start a run a game. So this is early start for him, right? So we're going to get the first hit. You see the Wagner immediately back up and go for the install. So if you don't know, Wagner has one of her key mechanics is that she has an install to her shield and her sword. And her shield and her sword, the installs give her different properties to her moves that make her a better character. So you can think of her as a momentum-based snowball character, right? You can think, oh, here, I should remove myself while I'm doing this. You can think of her as a momentum-based snowball character because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get installs and then run the game and then get more installs and then rinse and repeat until you win. That's the idea anyway. So you see right there, charging star. One more time. Got some good damage on it. It's because that expends the shield bash, the shield charge. Think the cam is fine? You know what then? Let me do this. Let me make it slightly smaller. Leave it like right here. That way I'm not in the way of the meters. Okay. So let's do this. So he gets the shield bash early on, right? So he expends it. And then you see right here, he goes, once he gets the combo again, he goes for the install on the shield again, right? He's going on the install shield again because, like I was saying before, a very snowbally character. You want to keep the installs going. There you go. DP's out. Remember I was talking about the pressure. You want to be able to challenge the Wagner player. You want to make it difficult for her to read when you're doing it. In the meantime, what you're seeing here is that there's a lot of shielding on the side of JDR. And why is JDR shielding right now? Well, you can look at the grid meter down here. You see the grid cycle's almost up. So what he's doing is he's shielding in order to get some grid. And then once the grid cycle's done, there you go. He's got Vorpal now. Nice. He also went from the 6-6C into, here, I should back up for that. 6-6C, so the 6-6C, when you use it close enough, will cross up. So he wants to take corner positioning again, all right? So this is something that you have to worry about when you're playing against high players, is that 6-6C will side switch, and it will put him in heavy blocks, and it's also special cancelable. So he goes into 6-6C, and the reason why he goes into force function afterwards is because largely inputs after 6-6C are kind of rough, and sometimes you get some accidental inputs. So he goes for force function, which is just a B+C input. So don't have to worry about what side you're on afterwards. Don't have to worry about what motion you have to do. You just press B+C, and then you're good to go. Cancels that as well. And then he flinches into that one. This is going to be a huge combo. You get the double Rekka. Nice. And you see right here, this is a very common tactic for people who have chain shift or have Vorpal, right? So this is one thing I disagree with what JDR did, is that he was keeping the pressure up right here, and as soon as you got into this place, he used the force function. And remember, force functions use a bar of grid, right? So you see right there, it took a bar of grid. He goes for the Rekka on the follow-up, and then chain shift. But look what the time that he chain shifts. He chain shifts right as the grid cycle is almost up. And this is where I disagree with what he did right here, is because not only was he pressing a lot of buttons, giving the ability for Ken to get some shields and then take it, he could have saved this. He could have extended his pressure a little bit longer and then been able to get Vorp Roll. Then he goes for the mix-up afterwards, right? So why was that a problem? This was a problem largely because, so he does the chain shift right here, right? And now you gave Vorpal up to Ken. What does Ken do? Ken is mashing D. He is mashing D until JDR gives him some room. Why does he do that? Well, he largely does that because as soon as JDR sees that, he knows he has to respect Ken. And as soon as Ken realizes that, and maybe he sees anything, that's a free DP for him. He's also got 144 meter, so you can do a special or a super reversal as well. There's a lot of things for that go in the favor of Ken in this scenario. So this is a big loss for JDR in my opinion. I think there's a better way to approach this. So what I would say, so for people who are starting out in the game, what would I focus on in this scenario right here? I would focus on two things. One, I would focus on the grid Vorpal cycle, right? When you chain shift, take a peek at your Vorpal cycle real quick and go, where am I on the cycle? How much grid do I have? How much grid does he have? Because if he left that cycle in for a little bit longer and then he did fireball into the follow-up into chain shift, this chain shift wouldn't have happened. Then Ken would have taken a bigger risk in this situation, right? And the second thing I would want to note is that you have to sort of learn how to press buttons or not to press buttons in certain situations. And that's largely around the shield mechanic. That might be too advanced. I think the first note I made was very important. Before you chain shift, take a look at your grid meter, the grid cycle, and look at your opponents and see what's up. It's a really quick, easy thing to do. Also, second thing, if I was the Hyde player, you know what I could have also done is that I could have spent super here. I could have spent EX Orbital, and I would have, if I was running out of pressure, I could have spent EX Orbital, and I would have saved Vorpal in this situation. And, you know, that wouldn't have been that bad because, remember, chain shift turns all your grid into meter. So you saw we gained like about 50-ish meter, about 60 meter. So essentially he would have spent only 40 meter on that EX Orbital, which is pretty worth in my opinion, right? Chain shift and then starts pressure, right? So one of the things is that JDR is doing immediately is he's trying to take grid back. But in my opinion, this might be a little bit risky. Because you're so early in the grid cycle, you're only gaining grid that is going to be in a grid fight later on. Right? So during all this pressure, and then once you get into this situation right here where you're getting pushed out, he's getting pushed out because of shield, right? So shield pushes you out. Once shield pushes you out, then he goes for the reverse beat with the 5A to try to reset pressure. Unfortunately, crosses himself up, puts himself in a bad situation. Yeah, it gets opened up. Oh, he dropped the combo. Immediate chain shift. Look how important that chain shift was in this scenario. Chain shift, recognize what happens, DP. And this is something that you can do early on when you're learning, is that you don't have to save your chain shift for the exact perfect moment. Sometimes just mashing chain shift out and then seeing what's up. So, sorry, reverse beat, or in this game it's specifically called passing link. But reverse beat is a system created in Melty that is also used in this, where any normal can be canceled into any other normal regardless of strength, but can only be canceled into it once. So, for example, if I was Hyde, I can go 5A, 5B, 5C, or I can go 5C, 5B, 5A, or I can go 5C, 5A, 5B. You can also consider reverse beating or beating as like Gatlings. So reverse Gatlings if you're from a Guilty Gear or Blaze Blue game. In this game, it's called Passing Link, but a lot of people will refer to it. Actually, almost everybody will refer to it as reverse beat because that is the system mechanic that was in Melty, which is the same creators of this game, Melty Blood. I'm not sure because I didn't play Melty. But as far as I've been told, it works pretty much the same. So, oh yeah, what were we talking about before, right? So, unfortunate drop on the combo. He's got the install, and then he messed up the follow-up afterwards. He has a lot of meter to work with. He might have been able to kill off this combo, to be honest. So then he techs forward and gets out immediately as soon as you land. So remember, you're not if you tech in the air, you're unable to act until you hit the floor, but you're also invincible until you hit the floor. Right? Oh, yeah, you can whiff cancel in this game, too. That's a very common tactic. It makes characters like Phonon very good. You can do, like, 3C, 2A. So you see, so remember in this game, you're invulnerable on air tech all the way to the ground. So he forward techs, lands on the ground, mashes chain shift. And what do I see when I'm looking at this chain shift? Oops. Let's go back to full screen. All right. I'm trying to look for that. All right. What do I see when I chain shift? I see this 2A sticking out. See this 2A sticking out. So he goes for an invincible move, goes for the DP, and now he has positioning. Finds the overhead with the assault jump B, and that's going to be the first game to goes to him. So you can see that a lot of the reason why he won this one is control in the corner, and also that chain shift into DP completely changed the tides. Well, the combo drop did as well, obviously, but that definitely didn't help.
Getting chipped out like crazy by Hyde. That's the thing about Hyde is he's got massive chip damage on his normals. He's the only character in the game with chip like this, so he can literally half health you in like a 10-second block string.
Oi, getting rushed down. So let's go over the sequence real quick, right? So previous to the first match where he goes backwards and he goes for an install, he has 200% meter, so he decides to go in and install with 22C. So 22C, the install pillar you see right here, gives her buffs on both the sword and the shield and is plus on block, and gives her a mix-up. It is a very deadly, deadly super, and it runs her game quite a bit. So this is something you always have to be afraid of when you're playing against Wagner. She's just an extremely good character. Finds him low. Looks like he was trying to maybe read the reverse beat. A lot of shielding. Oi! Gets opened up. So, wait. So he gets the knockdown right here, respectable damage, and he's still got the fire or the sword buff, right? So he reverse beats, and then JDR starts going to shield. Why does he go to shield? He's recognized that the Vorpal cycle is almost up, and this was very, very smart from the side of Ken. So he's going for it, right? He sees that he starts to shield. Well, he's shielding to the rhythm of the buttons, right? Because that's a very common way for people to start shielding. That way you don't have to read too much. It's kind of lenient, so you're allowed to do that, right? But what he reads is that instead of going for a reverse beat in this last moment, he goes for a shield bash. And what he's done here is that he has actually mixed up the timing in which that JDR has been pressing shield. Gets hit. It looks like he tried to jump out, actually. Yeah. So remember what I was talking about before is that shielding pushes him out. Well, he thought that he had room. Not anymore. Goes back in with the shield. Pretty safe because of that the super pillar too. He had 2-2C. EX orbital. This is a very classic thing that Hyde players will do. 2-2B or 2-2A moves them forward in a really weird way, so you go for a cross up in this situation. There you go. Ken just gets out of dodge, and he's got a lot of meter to work with, right? So he's not afraid of too much. Oh, no. Big hit. This is going to hurt. I would have tacked on... oh, no, wait. He was out of meter. My bad. So, man, big hit here, right? So... resets the pressure with the orbital. Goes for the full charge force function, which is an overhead.
Look at this damage. Okay. Someone's been eating their Wheaties. Okay, I like it.
And remember we were talking about before. Chain shift, force function. Or chain shift DP. And... so we got the hit here. Sorry. Largely nothing that you can do about it in this situation because of the chain shift that he used earlier. And you see that the chain shift here, his side is still blinking. And that's because when you use chain shift and you keep people in a combo, you're not able to start gaining grid back until the combo's over. But the cycle still happens. I mean, if you consider that he got a shit ton of damage out of this, it's still worth it, but he does give Ken Vorpal. So that DP was able to get out. The challenge with the 2-2As, the 2 AAs, and then he gets the hit.
JDR getting that first match there. With Ken had such a very strong second round. Yeah, wow. Jeez.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I know.
It was a great turnaround.
For how JDR took those 2 games, it's actually very close. Yeah. So it looks like Ken kind of tighten up his neutral here, kind of getting his confirms properly, because I feel like he definitely had that match, but it was down to a couple crucial drops in neutral.
You see, at this point, sorry. See at this point that as soon as JDR or as soon as Ken doesn't recognize he gets the opening, he backs up 3 times. Which, by the way, backdashes do spend your grid, so you do have to worry about that. Moving forward gains you grid. Moving backwards loses you grid. So very another the reason why Wagner is so good is that moving her forward naturally gives her advantages. A lot of her moves do that. So he backs up, and as soon as he backs up, he recognizes that, oh shit, he's backed up. He's not giving me room that I want because I'm a Shoto. He's trying to go get installs. So he tries to chase back down with a 6-6C. So this is something you have to recognize when you're playing against Wagner players, right? If they back up, as a rushdown character, if you back up, that's pretty telling, isn't it? Let's try to get rid of that. So he tries to get back in, and in turn he takes all this positioning. Ken, now he has the shield bash. Now he's able to get in. Try to confirm out of there, no go. Nice block in the overhead. But then he chased him down, got the hit. Man, he returned the favor with the DP chain shift. This is so sick. So, big scramble here, right? Goes for the chain shift. I think he recognized that maybe there was a button here, but it was actually the startup of... what's it called? Startup of Assault. And if you don't know, Assault is the homing move right there. Here. You see it right there? You see this like angled dash thing that sort of homes. This is sort of like a KOF short hop, but it homes, right? So you just press forward D, and you're able to do this. It's pretty cool, honestly, right? It makes it so that you don't really have to focus on your spacing when you do jumps and stuff. You really can just use Assault. There's obviously some there is some negatives to using it, which is like you can't block out of it, but it does help for a lot of pressure. And a character like Hyde, who has a lot of different angled normals, it works out really well for. Good damage. Stagger pressure check. So good recognition here. He gets the 2A, and then he stands back up Ken's like, no, 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 not today. Especially not recognizing that he didn't see any grid, he didn't see any extra pressure. This is a bit of a risk, but it definitely paid off. Yeah, just wins the cycle.
Yep, and he still keeps it. +9. Oh, he gets clipped low, and that actually should be. Oh, but the
No, he dropped it. Chain shift DP. And then he hit him on the opposite side.
second time he's low, and that
So
take advantage of that pressure string he was blocking.
big situation here. You got the pressure check, right?
It looks like he's gonna win the next cycle here, barring any changes.
There is a situation, and there is a possibility that he could have dropped the combo with a small hit, gotten out of the corner, and concentrated to get Vorpal. But I think that might be too complicated, and he was going to give up a lot of damage, especially with having 200 meter. So this was a good decision. Shield Bash. So after Shield Bash, he's spent all of his installs. So what does he do? He goes for pressure. No bite. Goes into the Shield Bash in order for him to go 2-2C. And you hear the commentators exclaim, +9. We are in heavy advantage in this situation, and we have both installs. He finds the opening once again, and then he drops it. Big scramble. Remember we're talking about chain shift. Mash it out in certain situations when you see a scramble. If you have Vorpal, you have the advantage. You mash out Vorpal, you recognize what's happening, and then you come up with an answer.
He wakes up with his own. It's the second time he's woken up on his previous DP to his own.
I feel like JDR might need to start being a little more noticing of that. His DPs are flying right now.
Ooh, yeah, nice tick or nice 2A dash up.
Oi, 6B starter.
Now high damage in the corner.
Yeah, this is gonna hurt.
Can you feel it?
Oh, I should mention that real quick, right? So, this is very common in a lot of anime air dasher fighting games, is that light buttons will make combos scale more than heavy buttons. So there is something in a lot of anime games called proration, which is that the combo will drop down to a certain percentage of scaling early on. So if I start a combo with 6B, like I was saying before, 6B will prorate less than 2A, which will prorate more. So a lot of 2As, 5As will prorate the combo or scale the combo back to 70%. A lot of heavies will not scale at all, and therefore will do more damage. But obviously the trade-off is that moves that are quicker, like 2A, are easier to hit, very commonly lows, or very combo filler. So you see a lot of like 2A. That's largely because that button's very good. It can chain into itself. It's a low, and in that way, it's sort of balanced. I'm not sure if Vorpal increases proration, but it does increase the damage overall. So it increases everybody's damage. So I guess in a way, yeah, you could say that it increases proration because it increases your damage overall. But I think the way that it is calculated is that it is done that there's proration and then the scaling is tacked on afterwards. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to go into the wiki to try to see if there's anything on there, because I don't remember off the top of my head how that works. I don't exactly remember how that works. I think Squish talked about it in the Akatsuki guide. I would believe him. All right, this isn't helping much. I mean, so Okay, so let's bring up an example, right? So this is the thing it's coming up in my head. A move like 2A will 2A will prorate the combo just to 70%, I believe. Is that what it was? Anyway, but you get the 10% afterwards, right? So you can say that it doesn't prorate as much because you get the 10% damage bonus. But I think you can think about it both ways, one way or another. I think it works out that way. I'll have to go back into it.
Look at all this chip damage. Look at all this.
Damn. All right.
Look at all this
A very common thing
chip damage.
you'll see right here is you'll see super into or chain shift into super, and then you'll see chain shift into super largely because it's not a combo. So he gets all the grid back, or he gets all the meter, and he starts being able to grid back immediately. So pressure up.
Look at all this chip damage. Look at all this chip.
That's the throw. Now he's gonna give up. He's gonna give up. Sorry, he's gonna give up Vorpal. But in this situation, I think he was more worried about keeping up pressure. So, and he had such a healthy life lead, right? Like, he had such a healthy life lead. Not a big deal.
Now we have an even game. JDR on set point.
2-2C, remember?
6-speed pressure right there. Pop him back up. Ooh, okay.
But oh my God.
Jesus, look at the amount of grid that JDR has. He finally gets opened up.
Now CS is a
Oh my God, you rarely see this much grid. Jesus.
I didn't actually think Palebringer was gonna beat.
My dude has 8
Okay, all right, calm down now. So, when you have this much grid, you actually gain other properties. You gain, so you don't have to worry about this too much because it's supposed to be beginner friendly, but it's just information in general. You gain different properties like extra wall bounce and ground bounces and stuff like that. But don't worry about that too much. Just, you know, I gotta remember this is, I'm trying to make this as easy to consume as possible. Yeah, it's kind of wild, right? But once you get past the halfway mark, then you gain new properties. So pressure up, finds the hit.
Now CS is a factor on wake up here.
So so you see him go for chain shift and then go for the super immediately, and he still gains the meter. That's because the meter gets stored into here, and then it starts going into here. You can see, like, as it's depleting, it's going into the bar right here. So, don't worry about like having to do super and then chain shift in order to get the meter out of the way. Well, you can do the opposite like he did right here.
He's gonna beat install charging star.
Gets to jump 2B
But you know, you learn something new.
or jump B. Sorry,
Like, ooh, yeah, nice patience.
full carry, and he's got grid once again. He finds the overhead.
Yeah.
The pressure here.
Oh, this is gonna hurt in Vorpal. He's got 200 meter. He's gonna spin IW. Yes, it is. Boom.
Actually, that did enough damage.
5.2. Good stuff. So, finds the overhead, full combo. He's wary that he has 200 meter in this situation, so he goes for a combo that can end into IW. Here you go, first game, or that's JDR's game. Good stuff.